Smash, being a grassroots scene, holds tournaments in all different kinds of venues. To your friend's house, a town hall, a convention centre, or even a whole ass water park. Or maybe even a whole holiday park. All to ourselves. Sounds dreamy, right?
In this weird cell block in the middle of nowhere with a bed that's never going to fit me.
I've never really seen that kind of rust on a cooker or a fridge before.
Wow. Thick black mould.
It's crap. Don't go.
But despite all of this, sometimes in the end, all you need for a once-in-a-lifetime event is a bunch of people who you love, some CRTs, and to make some incredible moments together. Excuse the tank top, it's a heat wave in the UK. Fate Free by the Sea was announced during the top 8 of Fate 2, and from the trailer, this was an exciting event to look forward to. I mean, Fate 1 and 2 were amazing, and they were held in Stoke-on-Trent of all places. A residential tournament by the beach. What's not to love? Getting to hang out with all the homies on the beach. I mean, sign me up right now. Just take my money, here it is. But then, just before signups went live, the reveal of the venue and location was announced to be Pontins in Camber Sands. And the more people looked into it, the worse it became. The worst rated holiday park in the whole of the UK. 3,000 terrible reviews on TripAdvisor. Worst place I've ever stayed. Disgusting shithole. If hell had a hell, it would be Pontins Camber Sands. To just name a few of these reviews. Some people admittedly were a little put off. However, the TOs assured us that everything would be clean before we arrived as part of their hire package. Also, I mean, it's Fate, a tournament no one in EU wants to miss, even being endorsed by the Yard, with TOs who are well trusted in the Melee scene to put on an amazing event. I'll say it again, Fate 1 and 2 were in Stoke-on-Trent. How much worse could this be?
How would you describe Pontins?
Pontins is like a fever dream.
It's a mix of like child miasma, fucking nightmare. Like
Pontins is something that you wouldn't expect to exist and then does.
it is the worst thing I've ever possibly stayed at.
It's really hard to put this venue into words. Camber Sands Pontins feels like you're walking onto the set of a horror game. Nothing feels like it's changed since this place was built in the 60s and has slowly been rotted by the passage of time. At one point, maybe a happy place filled with families laughing and enjoying a great holiday is now worn and falling apart at the seams. The mini golf course has debris all over, no water to be seen in the rivers, and the pirate statues shedding their skin, not even given the honour of a hook hand, just left to rot. The paint all over looks like it hasn't seen a fresh coat in years. Seagulls roaming every part of the park, leaving their mark on as many amusements as they could. And also all these godforsaken bins. All of this topped off with the cheery smiles of the Croc crew mascots. That would make you believe that this was a thrown away concept for a Five Nights at Freddy's game. I mean, nobody tell MatPat about this place, or get 10 videos on their chuckles and banging the zebra. This whole place was surreal, to say the least. And I haven't even talked about the accommodation yet. But that's kind of hard for me to put into words, so let me show you some of a video I took. What the 2-star accommodation is for Pontins Holiday Park. What are we looking at? What have we got? We've got this, the lounge. Nicely little stained floor. Beautiful. You've got, whatever the fuck that is. This is so bad. It's like, missed the hole in the door. Look at that beauty. And I mean, mine wasn't even that bad. Some people's showers didn't hold water in. A neighbour of mine had dead wasps lining the entrance as a lovely welcome gift. Some even had a mushroom growing out of their wall. The beds were so bad that, would you believe me, that this thing was the comfiest thing in the flat to sleep on. Still better than Stoke-on-Trent's rock beds though. Oh yeah, that's awful. However, while you may be thinking, Chaler, this is horrible. How would you ever want to stay in that room? How is this an enjoyable event when that's where you're spending your time? Ah, well that's the thing, dear viewer of mine, who is obviously subscribed. You see, because the rooms were so bad, it made the event even better. No, I swear I'm not huffing copium.
Nightmare scenario before Fate, and I think when you get there, everyone just forgets.
As a vibe, up here,
The worst thing I've ever possibly stayed at. And I think Fate 3 was fucking so much better for it. Because it meant no one could possibly want to just stay in their rooms all day. It was, when you got mushrooms growing out the fucking walls like The Last of Us, you have to go to the venue and fucking socialize.
The fact that no one wanted to be in their room would make the event just so much more social than past Fates. Everyone would be chilling at the main venue. For a person like me who likes to bounce from group to group, this is perfect to talk to people I normally might not, or bring people together who might not. Thus bringing us to day one of the event, where we'll see something that really highlights how this event brought people together, who you would have never have expected. With the first day of Fate came with it the first day of some actual melee, and some other side events. However, what would be the highlight of the day would be the International Crew Battle, an event that has run throughout Air and its now successor Fate for as long as the series has been around. This year's crews, however, would have what seemed to be an unbeatable crew with the US, with a lineup of Zane, Aklo, Hungrybox, Jmook, and Polish. So, some bright-eyed players got an idea to put together a crew that could challenge this titan.
I think it may have been Brand Speed. It was like, can we just do like a brown crew? And then me and Nintendo Labs, I think, were like, they didn't sound like the most politically correct, so we sort of recorded a little bit. But I think I came up with like, what do we call it? Like South Asia.
Lots of people came up. What is this crew? South Asia is not a country. Blah, 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 blah. Listen, they don't know. It's just a collection of, people without a place to go. There's random brown people around South Asia, and, it's nice that we're able to form a crew, and it's like actually international as well.
And thus, the South Asian crew was the goal. And Zane and Aklo were eyed up as the big potential players.
Off the list of like the potential people, like our best crew, and then we thought, okay, that'll be a good match for like USA. So let's try and run it. We didn't even think we'd get our best crew.
And they were super eager. It was almost like the second sentence, I think. They were like, yeah, totally, we'll get involved.
So down, so ready, like they loved it. They loved the idea, we loved the idea, it was great.
And all of a sudden, this crew meant business. And it wasn't just that they were the now favourites, as Hungrybox and Jmook didn't even end up playing in crews, reducing the US to a shell of themselves. But in the end, this crew wasn't about the bracket. It was about the basis on which they were formed. So, let me tell you a little about one of the masterminds who you've been hearing from, Swarm Engine.
I was not a main player on the crew. I didn't make the cut for any of the crews I think I've been involved in.
By any means, Swarm isn't a bad player, but in the same way that I'm not. He's had his moments, but isn't anything crazy. I mean, we're pretty similar. Yet, due to the camaraderie in this crew, Swarm ended up being the captain of the crew, being a big part of the decision making along with the others. So much so that even a player of Aklo's caliber was asking him what to do.
Like some people were doubting Hassan's role in the team, and then you'd see Aklo go up to Hassan like after the match ends, and he's like looking at Hassan like fully trusting, fully like going with his advice. Like he was the captain. He had the strats. He knew.
I find this shows just how there were no barriers in this crew, and everyone just gave each other the respect of another human. The crew even did have some close calls in the bracket, with the Canadian crew going down to their last player, and Zane who decided to mix it up a bit to make things interesting.
Samus is so dumb. How does that smash not kill? Okay, there we go. There.
It feels like Zane shouldn't be able to use aerials.
How many grabs are we going to see? There it is.
Could be a grand moment in Canadian.
Oh,
love that.
He fucks up because he's playing Samus, makes it back, but no, the up B is way too early. The poor noodle. Techno will be able to recover again. No, he won't. No, he won't. South Asia clutches it out. Zane's Roy.
And he was even going to do something similar with the UK crew, but couldn't. In the end, this smashed together crew ended up taking the whole bracket and celebrated with a meal, all together at the end, in the same hall, being observed by these strange mascots. And when they went up to receive the award, who else to take it than the captain himself? And by the end of this day, crews had really got the vibes up. People were starting to warm up to the park, cracking jokes about all the mascots, telling each other their names, and playing mini-golf on that scuffed course. But soon enough, it was on to day 2. A day where I feel like I accidentally peered onto an alternate timeline. When day 2 rolled around, you could feel that those vibes had begun to change for real. Following tweets of people at the event, they had really begun to roll with the punches. And there were a lot of people making fun of these strange aspects to the park, in a loving sort of way. This has to be my favourite tweet of the whole event. I mean, how's he just gonna throw that whole thing? I mean, what are these seagulls made of out there? Day 2 also gave us our first day of Melee singles, giving us our dopamine hit of close sets and upsets galore. But the real highlight of the day was in the evening once again, and that was the Salty Suite. Now I think the days of prime Salty Suites are behind us for sure. Beef just isn't as prominent as it used to be. Quit! Quit, bro! And I think that everyone lives with the expectations that something as incredible as Chillin' vs. Leffen needs to happen every time. However, what Salty Suites can be is a time to have some fun and scream for your mates. To give you an idea of the energy that was behind this, let me talk about my second favourite match from the suite, Tony Bomboni versus Lunary. Now these two are some of the sweetest and cool people I know in the scene, and most definitely have no beef with each other. Sounds like a shit Salty Suite, right? Well, turns out a bit of wholesome fun and some showmanship can just about carry any match. And maybe a little bit of intoxication. The vibe for this was chaotic as all hell. Tony shows up smashed off of his face, as is right for a Fate show match. And so Lunary decides to match him, downing pint after pint. Were the matches high quality? No. Were they absolutely hilarious, with them quitting out after every bad first stock and dancing and hitting random whatever the hell this is in between games? All to end in a beautiful Game 9, a hug and a kiss between two guys absolutely just pissed off their face. So now you get the vibe. Let's talk about a match that might not have ended in a kiss, but did go down in the history books for all the strangest of reasons. HBox vs Zane, a classic of our time, and here they are to settle it all in the Salty Suite, in a match of Roy versus Ness. Yeah, that seems about right. So for some context before this, I think Zane was already a few pints deep based on the footage from this whale hunt video.
In terms of the integrity scale?
Great video, by the way, go check it out. But there is also a twist with this best of 5. I'm unsure if the condition was put on beforehand or if it was just pure peer pressure, but before game 1, they both chugged a beer. And then after game 1 as well. Were they going to be chugging beers the whole set? Spoiler alert, yes. Now in my opinion, this set doesn't get going until midway through the set, after Zane wins 3-1. Yes, you heard me right, after Zane wins 3-1. Because the game ends in just such a lackluster way, and just as the crowd had really started to rally and get into it. So, Zane and HBox decide to make it a first to 5. I mean, Zane's already up 2 games, it probably won't go the whole distance. It's just a bit more fun on some silly stages. Oh, and there's another beer. Then, Hungrybox wins some games, and the beers keep being brought up to the stage in rapid succession after each game.
I got flashbacks to being like 15 again in the field, and like literally dying, and my mates being like, fucking drink, and wanting to throw up. Zane experienced 5 years of like British adolescence in one set, because he went from I don't want to do it to maybe a little bit to like by the end of it was like, yeah!
And you can truly see them start to suffer, but the games go on. As the games keep going and the drinks keep flowing, but maybe it was just the drinks, but you could really feel the childish joy in the air. And for a moment, it felt like I'd just been sucked into an alternate timeline of Melee. A time where no rules were put in place and there was no prizes on the line. Just a bunch of people together, getting drunk as shit and playing a game they all love. The crowd chanting for UFO, UFO, to get the players to go to Foresight, only to just lose their absolute marbles when it came down. Just brought such a smile to my face.
Oh, they're dancing. They're dancing.
And I was like, this is the best day of my life. And I actually genuinely said that because I thought it was so funny, because I think it did bring the essence of like why we play Melee, which was for fun.
The set ends, both players hug, and share words that, as a player from the UK who adores our tournament culture and clearly wants it to be recognised by the rest of the world, meant a lot to me.
Can I say this really quick? That was the most fun I had playing Melee in years.
And I'm sure many others. Followed by one of the most surreal things I have ever experienced.
Literally, what the fuck is happening?
I don't think there's words for this, to be honest. These salty sweets set the vibe for the rest of that evening, which just ended up feeling warm and fuzzy. People hanging out and talking to the early hours of the morning. Now the melee was over for a lot of entrants, only a few people were even grinding the game, and just enjoying each other's company in this spectre of a park, where some of the most insane things I've ever seen from melee have just happened. And yet, there was still one more day. Yeah, sure, day 3 at Major, full of great melee, and while there are many occurrences I would absolutely love to talk about, I don't have time to cover them all. What I do want to talk about is the insanity that was this top 8, and how a man controlled the vibe, and yet also obliterated it. This is Jim, otherwise known as Skuxy. Now, despite what you may have thought, this wasn't just some drunk guy that they let on the stage. Jim is somewhat of an icon in the UK, as like our own version of Hungrybox, or at least that's what we like to call him. He's loud, he plays the green puff, he's the epitome of your Brexit geezer type. And while you'd think that would make you dislike him, he's somehow one of the most endearing guys I've ever met. And he also knows how to bring the energy.
Bloody Dreamland, are you ready?
Maybe too much for some of the stream viewers, and maybe even the poor players at times.
Especially Jabu, who's going for like an existential controller breaking crisis, and then Hungrybox, sorry. This is what I mean, this is the effect he had. Yes. UK H-Box is in his ear whispering sweet nothings about, oh, you're gonna start Battlefield, you're gonna start Dreamland.
But for the crowd,
Absolutely fucking fantastic game.
and although the stream either hated or loved him, I think for the crowd, he did exactly what he needed, and brought the hype for this top 8, embodying the spirit of this tournament in this venue that you thought might fall apart at any minute. Speaking of the venue, to show just how integral this shoddy old place had become to the vibes of this event, the top 8 pitches really show the endearment people had come to have towards the venue. I think Joshman at some point said he wanted to get that zebra tattooed on him. By the time top 8 had rolled around, everyone had come round to Pontins, and there was nothing left to do but to enjoy the ride of the top 8.
Let's kick the fucking belly off. I'm sending it back to the commentators. Let's fucking go.
You just get checkmated, huh? Je suis très confusé.
It's a really nice stream. What's happening?
Oh no.
Unfortunately, after what was looking to be a sick grand finals, with Zayn coming through losers, JMO's controller just bursts at the seams, leaving the whole venue feeling rather deflated.
Before like he started drifting off the stage, Zayn was like legit doing well, outplaying, and then like, poof, all the hype's gone.
What's happening?
Like I'm sitting up forward edge of my seat, like Zayn's playing good, and then
it was sad that at the end that really hit the vibes like that, and it's kind of sad to think of that for some people that might be the most memorable thing, like especially for the spectators.
But like a phoenix from the ashes,
I don't have much to say about the set, but here goes nothing.
It sucks that people who didn't attend's main memory of this tournament might be this moment, but that's partly why I want to make a video, to tell you about some of those untold moments and to highlight the cool stuff that did happen. And all this stuff that went on in these evenings, in this insane venue. I didn't even get to cover stuff like Hungrybox getting taken into the LGBT meetup and entering the crew battle to play for Warsaw, which honestly feels like it could just be its own strange video. But the evening after Top 8 is always one that summarizes a tournament. People singing karaoke, hanging out until the early hours of the morning, this group making a trek to the beach to watch the sunrise, are all moments that I couldn't possibly figure out how to get across the feeling in just a video. But by the end of it all, I was shedding tears, thinking about how it's all over. And I did that while looking at this fucking venue from the outside. Will the Fate organisers go back? Who knows? But even if they don't, the legends of the Croc crew and the feelings that were portrayed there are something that were definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, feel free to head over to my Patreon. You can support the channel for as low as $1 and it really helps me out. On that topic, thank you to this week's Patreons: Tingly Jungle, Userera, Snugs, Jarek Ford, Dan Landon, Big Baby, and Matthew Biss. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.